Hey, so skill 14 is really part two from skill 13, which was about where to put commas. Skill 14 is where not to put commas, all right? And this really needs two skills because this is such a common issue that unless until you practice sort of both ends of it, okay, I need to put the commas here and they don't belong here, then you don't get everything right. And you just need more practice with this. So, this is where you should not put a comma. And if you remember this list, this is basically it. There are five situations where students often, where the ACT puts commas as sort of trap answers. And that's, there might be some other small stuff, but if you get this, you're going to be in good shape. So do not put a comma between the subject and the verb of a sentence. I can't tell you how often we see this. The cars parked along the street in my neighborhood are all being towed, right? And I love how the Google Docs knows that this is an error. There's no comma there, right? They're going to say neighborhood R, fix it, right? R is the subject. Sorry, R is the verb, right? And this part, the cars parked along the street in my neighborhood, is basically the subject. It more or less, right? So this is the first verb. You do not want to put a comma between there. It's probably the most common extra comma mistake. The next one, do not separate a compound subject or a compound object with a comma. I'm not sure why Google didn't see this, but the hurricane resulted in hundreds of deaths and millions of dollars in damages. You do not need that comma because this is a compound uh, predicate. Okay, it's hundreds of deaths. That's one part, and millions of dollars in damages. You do not need a comma between those two parts of the predicate. Okay. Third, do not put a comma before a preposition. Really common mistake too. He waited for her at the train station. You do not need to, it wouldn't sound right even to say he waited for her at the train station. No pause there. Let's fix it. Awesome. Do not put a comma before an infinitive. My friends and I went out to look at the solar eclipse, right? You do An infinitive is a to verb, to run, to walk, to swim, to look, to whatever. Okay? Those are all infinitives. Don't put a comma before an infinitives. It's just my friends and I went out to look at the solar eclipse. There's no pause there. And then put a comma before which, but not before that. All right. It's really common for the ACT to have a comma before a that where it doesn't belong. Motel rooms that are dirty ought to be illegal. So you don't need the comma there. Motel rooms that are dirty. And you actually don't need this comma here either, because this is basically the subject, motel rooms that are dirty, and this is the verb, ought, right? So you don't want to put a comma before the subject and the verb. So the right way to say that is motel rooms that are dirty ought to be illegal. That's probably like the hardest kind of thing. But again, also remember the general rule, and I'll write it down. If you aren't sure, don't put a comma. So, like, again, if you are just not sure, you get it down to two and one has one more comma than the other, and you really, really, really don't know, pick the one without the comma.